Let me move to our next speaker. With over 40 years of expert professional recruiting experience, mingled with over 26 years of expert career coaching experience, Bill Humbert is uniquely qualified to speak on talent attraction. Bill Humbert is the recruiter guy.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Would you like to have a conversation about a leadership topic that is so painful that it's rarely addressed publicly? Talent attraction, plain old-fashioned recruiting. Now, I know what you're thinking. I can see it right through the screen. You're thinking, wait, that's an HR topic. And you know what? That's part of the problem. The functions of human resource are administrative and compliance in nature. Think about it. You have benefits, compensation, employee relations, sometimes payroll, training and development, and there's one outlier. And the outlier is recruiting. Now, I understand that many associations themselves are not large enough for an HR department, and I'll get into how this specifically impacts you. So when your organization decides that it needs a new leader, does someone wiggle their nose and poof, a new leader pops up and that person's perfect? Recruiting is not magic. It requires focus and hard work. Recruiting mirrors the sales process perfectly. From deciding that there is a need for a new leader or anybody else on staff, from their attraction all the way through to their retention. Let's discuss how sales and recruiting mirror each other. In sales, your organization discovers a need that other companies have. In recruiting, let's say we have a need for a new leader. In the sales process, the organization creates a solution to solve that need. In recruiting, that is your job description. Did you notice that the job description is the second step? The job description is the most important element of the recruiting process. Why? Because everything else, everything is dependent and measured against it. Yet most organizations just slap something together, and that is the prime cause for hiring the wrong candidate. The next step in the sales process is sourcing companies that may need that solution. In recruiting, sourcing is another pain for the organization. And the reason is you have an administrative compliance group, typically, who are doing the sourcing. And how do they source? They post online, and then they pray that the right candidate is looking at that posting at this moment. Does it work? Yeah, 8% of the time. Not odds I'd like to take, but it does work that way. But here's the problem. With a poor job description, everyone applies because they really don't know what the job entails. And then what HR does is they tell the applicant tracking system software developers, hey, help us screen all these extra people out. And so the software development companies create what they call artificial intelligence. Now, I refer to it as artificial intelligence. Did you know that a Harvard MBA could be screened out by that artificial intelligence if they do not have the words high school diploma on their resume? Now, I don't know about you. I'm not a Harvard MBA, but I do have a college degree, and I don't ever put high school diploma on my resume, yet they could still be screened out. Or what happens if the candidate has all the right experience, but they use different verbiage? Well, the artificial intelligence uses keyword matching. And if your keywords aren't matching to that job description, you're going to be screened out. That person may have been the one who made your organization 50% more profitable. Think about that. And do not get me started on requiring professionals to complete an application before there's any kind of a conversation that develops mutual interest. And that's what an administrative compliance person is going to require. The top 10% of candidates tell me, because I'm also a career coach, that as soon as they see an application required before they submit their resume, they're gone. In sales, once businesses who need your solution are targeted, they set up conversations that are called needs analysis. In talent attraction, we call that interviewing. What happens if the job description does not truly describe the job? Your interview is not tailored to the position, and you select the wrong candidate. See how this is going? Train your hiring managers how to effectively interview. If they've never been trained how to effectively interview, they've never been trained how to select the best qualified candidate. Now, it's important to conduct due diligence on both sides. On the sales side, you want to make sure that that company can pay for what it is they're buying from you. And the due diligence on the recruiting side is a background investigation, the drug test, and the reference checks. I cringe when companies tell me, oh, we don't do reference checks anymore because they're no good. Well, guess what? You just scratched out the way to determine whether a person's a cultural fit or not. Please don't do that. Ask the right questions that help determine whether that person's a cultural fit. The next steps are company proposes to the company that wants to buy your solution. In the recruiting process, that's an offer. Then there's usually negotiation, both on the sales side and on the recruiting side. And then there's the delivery of the product or service, and that's called a start date on the recruiting side. And then you have product training over on the sales side. And then on the recruiting side, that's called onboarding or orientation. The product or service follow-up is employee engagement. Who would have thought that employee engagement is in the same process as recruiting? And it is. And then finally, retaining clients on the sales side is employee retention. So the entire process of recruiting, or I call it talent attraction, mirrors the sales process perfectly. Now, if your association is small with no human resource department, and that's not unusual, act like university athletic directors. Successful athletic directors always know who they will contact first if they need to replace a head coach. Last March, the University of Utah the athletic director fired the basketball coach. Within 11 days, he announced who the new basketball coach was going to be for the University of Utah. Think about it. He didn't post on Indeed. He knew who it was that he was going after, negotiated with them, got the offer, the acceptance, and then the announcement was made. So always know who it is that you want to target, maybe in another association, or maybe it's somebody else. So I am Bill Humbert, and you may find me at recruiterguide.com.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that immensely. Bill was a hit a few months ago when I had him speaking to my Chief Staff Executive Office Hours group. So, Bill, I'm very clear that what you share is applicable to both association CEOs and to their members.